Here's the guitars by themselves. Yo, what's going on, homie? Let me show you a few tips and tricks that you should use when programming MIDI guitar. All right, I have a few examples here. Let's start with this first one. First, I'm going to show you what it sounds like, and then we're going to go through the MIDI. So I wanted to start out basic. However, even a basic riff like this sometimes is a little hard to program and to get it to sound realistic, right? And so with this case, I wanted to try to use some power chords just so I can, again, try to get it to sound as real as I can. Let me show you the isolated guitars. So there's a few bits in there that, it still sounds like a MIDI guitar. However, in the mix, you can't really tell. I think that's one of the biggest things, is fitting it into the mix and blending it into the mix so it doesn't sound like it's MIDI guitar. But by adding these little things that I'm about to show you, it's going to help even more, So the first thing is how you go about picking something like this. Now, for me, the way that I would probably go about picking it is like this, right? Almost like a bounce. But you also notice that they're all downstrokes. Da 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 da. And so what I initially did was I programmed a loud and a quiet velocity. Loud, quiet. And then I programmed these chords. However, these are power chords, but if you see, I have a little bit of a strum going on with these notes. Another thing that you notice is I have a hard note, which is my low note. I have a medium note on my velocities, and then I have a softer note. So the highest note is going to be my softest note, because when I pick that, you got to think, you're not hitting them all at once, you're kind of strumming into it. If you watch it in slow motion, that's what you're doing. And so I started here. I literally just made this one, and then you can see that they're not really on the grid, and that's kind of on purpose. But again, the biggest thing is that strum, and not each strum is the same. Like this one just so happened to be very close, but I wasn't worried about it being perfect. I didn't want perfect. I think that's the other thing, is like, we want to try to avoid perfect when we try to make stuff like this. And so that was probably the biggest thing for me, is the strums, and then the lowest note being the highest and hardest velocity, which this is currently at 86. This one is at about 78. This one is 54. The other thing to think about when you are programming a rhythm like this, in your MIDI guitar plugin, there should be a pick attack, at least a pick attack. I use the Asher guitar, and if you wanted to check it out, just go to studysoundaudio.com. I actually have an affiliate code, Bedan24. It'll get you $10 off, so if you wanted to check it out. So I actually have the pick attack really far down, almost off, and I have the chugs almost off as well. The reason why is you're kind of just strumming these fairly lightly, right? And so that's going to help you a ton. So another thing that I did was I added randomization in the velocities. Now inside of Ableton, you're able to easily do that. The way that I went about doing it was selecting everything, and down here inside of Ableton, you have this velocity randomize, and I actually have it at 4. But you can see that you can have it just go as crazy as you want, right? And so that's the other nice thing. We don't want these to all be the exact same. I think that the velocity randomization is going to help us even more. And even if you want to get wider guitars, you would go to each set of MIDI on your left and right, and you would change these just slightly, and it's going to help a ton with, again, getting that sound. Another thing here is having my bass in there. So I'm going to play the whole thing with and without bass, and you're going to see how much of a difference it makes. The next thing is lead. Now this lead is very basic. I'm not really like a solo programmer. Like I can't really program solos. Otherwise I would show you exactly how I go about doing it. And once I figure it out and once I start doing it, you will know how I do it, promise. But this is just a basic sort of little octave riff here. Now the phase might feel a little weird just because of what I have going on mix-wise. There's a little bit of wider on there, just to kind of blend it into the mix. with these leads here, you can see that it's the same thing. I'm playing this that same way. Da 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 da. It seems like on this one I'm using sustain alt pick, which on the Axer sounds just fine. And especially because it's blended in, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference. And so rather than the guitar player playing it like this, he's going to be playing it like this. But again, I went up, down, right? Accent, 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 ghost. That's the way you can think about it a little bit, kind of like with drums, right? You have your accent and then you have your ghost notes. And then again here you can see I added my randomization again, which was down here. So this next one is more of like a Gent style. And so you're going to see that I use, you know, the palm mute trick a lot more in here just to make things a lot tighter, right? Palm mute wise, you can see there's a lot more palm mutes. Again, the darker notes are palm mutes, and they're darker because I brought them down, the velocity layer down, just to get it tighter. And so let me show you what this sounds like really quick. I just want to let you know that I do one-on-one sessions now. And so if you have any questions or anything like that, I'm an open book. And so check out the link in the description and let's hang out. Here's the guitars by themselves. So you're going to see here that again, I'm doing that strum thing. The reason why is we're playing two notes here. So the other thing here again is I have palm mute right into sustain. But again, these palm mutes are lower. The way that I made this riff was literally grabbing the kick. I grabbed the kick and I brought it in here, found the key that I wanted, which in this case is G sharp. I wanted this to be like a periphery style riff. And I just went a half step up, which is G sharp, and then you have A. And that's what gets you that sort of dissonant sound. But you can see here, again, there's strumming going on throughout this whole thing. This whole riff has that strumming going on here. So you can see on the Axer, my pick attack is higher for something like this because I want that sort of sound there. Let me show you what it sounds like without the pick attack. So another thing that you notice is I have a little bit of variation going on this one as well. These ones not so much because I'm trying to get tighter Genty style sound. And so that's why I didn't go too crazy on my velocities. For this lead here, I didn't worry about it too much because again, it's just an effect in the background. And so I wasn't really worried about it sounding fake or real, and it's so blended in that you can't even really tell, right? Okay, so this last one is a little more my style. This is something that I actually wrote on my first episode of Make Songs Fast. And so if you wanted to check that out, I would actually highly recommend it because then you will be able to see how it started as a basic concept and then it turned into this. Here's the guitars. So you can see here, it looks kind of crazy. However, it didn't start like this. It started very basic. And again, I highly recommend that you check out my first episode because again, you're going to see how simple it started. And so you can see here, look at my velocities. They're fairly consistent. I wanted this to be really tight, but you can see that I added for my palm mutes and stuff like that, they're pretty low, right? There's some palm mute stuff that's fairly low. I could probably make it lower. However, I wasn't too worried about it. I have sustain alt pick, and it's sustain alt picking all of this until I get to my tapping key switch, which this tapping key switch also doubles as hammer-ons and pull-offs. So if you're going up, that's going to be a hammer-on. If you're going down, it's going to be a pull-off, right? And so that's why you see that here. But you can see I switched back to my sustain alt pick right here. Now this chord, it doesn't look like I did a strum on, but you can't really tell because it's so fast. This stuff here, so let me just see if I can explain this to you. So I have a palm mute hitting here, and then it's going into this sustain alt pick, and it's sustain alt picking until this note, and it's hammering on to this note. That's why I have this tapping key switch, and it's staying in this tapping, so it's almost like I'm doing an actual tap back into my sustained alt pick. Again, palm mute, sustain, tapping, back to sustain. Here is another hammer on here. Here's a chord, and I actually strummed these, you could see. Now, I didn't worry about velocities, but that's why you go off and analyze your velocity, so then you can change it, and you can always change it whenever, because it's MIDI. So you can see I did a chord, palm mute to my lowest note, and then a chord again, and I palm muted again to this. Now it looks like here, this could probably go down. That's how I would do that. And so, again, making these changes on the fly is not a big deal. Same thing here, you can see. I have a tap here, which is also, again, it's going to be a hammer on. This part here, the way I imagine playing this is like this. So I'm going to be upstroking, palm mute, upstroking, palm mute. And you can see here, because Axer just sounds super authentic with the sustain alt picks or the upstrokes, I didn't really worry about it. So the last thing that I did was I went through. Anytime that I hit an open note, I think I'm going to pick it harder. And so in the envelopes inside of Ableton, go to MIDI control and pitch bend. You can see I have some pitch bend going on here. And it's just on those notes that I'm hitting that open note. And so it's going down, down. I think this is a big deal, especially when you're starting a riff on an open note. Bow. Super important. All right, dudes, I hope this helped out. I know it was pretty fast, but again, I take a very basic approach. But if you do have more questions, like I said, I do one-on-ones. But other than that, check out the Instagram, check out the other videos that I have. Like I said, check out the other episodes of my Make Song Fast, and you're going to see how basic that I go about programming the MIDI guitars. And then I come in after the fact to detail it with these velocity changes and stuff like that. But also check out the Patreon. I have some templates and presets and stuff in there. I also have a 2-hour mix walkthrough. And so if you want to know how I get my mixes, then that's in there. But dudes, be sure to like and subscribe. I have a video come out every Monday. It's not going to always be about MIDI guitar. It's going to be about songwriting or mixing or something of that nature. But I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next time.